to order tonight, the Community Preservation Committee. The first, we're going to take some things out of order. I don't have it right in front of me. Hold on. So the first thing we're going to do, thanks CJ, is going to approve the minutes. We're going to go to number 3. So if I could have a motion, please.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. So the next thing we're going to move to is we have the fire chief back to, sorry, my computer's acting up here. He's going to give us an update on the project that he spoke to us about last week. So chief, if you want to come up and give us an update, that would be great.
I'm just trying to pull up, it doesn't look like I have too good a service in here.
Yeah, that's what's going wrong with my computer too, to be quite honest with you.
So, I took a ride up to the restoration place in Maine on Tuesday. These are photo, it's not a photo, it's almost like I guess a painting of what this Amoskead steam engine should look like. And we went up there, we spoke with Andy Swift, who owns the restoration, and he did our other 3 pieces, as I told you last week. So the last meeting I was asked to see if I could get a little bit more information on what was actually going to be done.
Yep.
So I'm kind of glad that you asked me to do that, because it forced me to go up there. It's a 3-hour ride.
Sorry.
But you know what? I had to get up there. The intent was to get up there a while ago to speak with him, and obviously we've had a lot going on, and I hadn't had the opportunity. So we went up. We spoke with Andy. We went through the facility where he does all the work, and you know, we spoke with him, and it was good to see what his thought was on what we were looking to do with this steam engine. The first thing he did is he brought us in, he opened up a book of all these, and it was an Amoskead book that has, you know, the history of this type of steam engine. Again, he proved it to us, it was the only one. So it is a very, very rare piece. And when we do this, we'd like to do it the right way. Now, he told us, I asked him, what would it cost to make this look like it came out of the manufacturers right off the show, you know, right off the line. And he said you couldn't afford it. It would be, you know, $150,000. And we're not looking to do that, but we're looking more to what the original intent was. He was going to make it what he called barn ready, and it was similar to what was done with one of our hose reels. One hose reel he basically cleaned it up, polished it, and it looks like it's almost in service. The other hose reel was like a full restoration. It looks like what it would have looked like originally.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a little difference. So we're trying to get this steam engine somewhat in between those two, what we did with the hose reels.
Chief, what do you call it? Parade ready?
Parade ready, yeah. So that's what the intent is. We could not afford it, and he doesn't recommend us trying to do this full restoration, what it originally looked like.
Okay.
But after speaking with him, and he showed us what he would do with the wheels, the painting of it, putting the Amoskead logos on it. He's found those. So it would look beautiful. So the original thought was not what my original intent was. If we're going to do this, I'd like to do it once and do it the right way.
Yep.
So I don't have all that, Terry, but is it on the other page? Okay.
We all received.
Oh, you did receive. So
We
you know,
did.
you see, so it's quite a bit of work that he does. There's going to be parts that he's going to have to go out and look for. There's parts at his shop right now that he might be able to use. We're also looking that possibly we could actually get this to operate a little bit.
Really?
So in the original, it wouldn't have. So it's not going to work like it did originally, but with a little bit of his expertise, we might be able to get it to whistle and things like that. So I think that would be great. So it'd be a little bit more involved in it than the original was. So I think you saw the increase in the price.
Yep.
I'm hoping that that's something that you would consider. But again, we saw his work, and we're very, very happy with the 3 pieces that he's already done for us. And we know this is going to be, and he wants to be proud of what he does also.
Sure.
Yeah, it's his
Because
reputation.
he's not going to be probably doing this too much longer. And honestly, I don't think there's a lot of these people available to do this. So I think it's a great opportunity for us that these pieces, became available to us. I know the hose reels were always here, and the hand pump, but this piece here was able to come back to us. We couldn't pass it up, and I think it's going to be great for the community when it's completed. So.
Okay. Good. Any questions or comments?
My only question would be, when we do the vote, and Laurie probably can answer this best, do we make, when the motion is made, do we make the increase in that, or does Chief have to submit a new one?
No, I think you're okay.
Which is
I think if we did a motion, yeah.
Okay,
Amend the original
He gave you
application.
an amended
Amendment,
application
okay.
through the email.
okay.
Yeah. Great. Good. Anyone else? No? Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Chief.
All right.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Well,
Thank
thanks
Have
for
a good
seeing me.
night.
Thanks for seeing
No
me
worries.
twice.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
All right, thanks a lot.
I know, thanks for coming to us.
We don't mind
After
seeing you
your
when nothing's
6-hour
burning.
drive.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
When we do the minutes, do we have to mention it was 2 minutes, or is that just okay because it's here?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one
Okay.
item. Okay, well, so the only other thing on our agenda is to vote on the recommendations for town meeting. My computer is acting up. I don't have the list of projects in front of me.
It's the letter.
Letter to Center Realty Trust.
Is on there too.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, number 2.
Anybody else? Yes.
All right, are you from Center Realty Trust?
Center Realty, yes.
All right, well, why don't you come on up?
Well, we can't really discuss it. Not on the agenda to discuss.
The vote is
Oh, that's
to
true,
send
you're
the
right.
letter.
Yeah,
No.
the vote is to send the letter, my apologies. So,
Oh, so why don't
I don't know, so.
I don't know whether you might have some questions. I don't know what the letter was.
Yeah, no, so, well, okay, how about this then? So, we can't have you speak just because you're not on the agenda, okay? So we're gonna discuss the letter, that'll give you a little bit of a preview, and you can sort of sort out any answers that we may have, is that fair?
Sure.
All right. Bill, you drafted a letter,
Yeah.
can you
So
speak to that?
So I just drafted a letter to have a official communication from our committee to the Center Realty Trust to say we'd like you to come before the Community Preservation Committee and talk about the proposed parking lot on Lot 3 of the land upon which we purchased the conservation restriction. And laid out some dates and said, get it done that way, just so, since our year essentially ends shortly after town meeting, we have a meeting or two and then we're on break for a while. I just wanted to make sure it got on the agenda as kind of an official committee to, one entity to another, formal
Yep.
communication that said, here are the dates, and write back and tell us when you'd like to come. And I put our address at Town Hall, attention Laurie Burzloff, or that they could communicate back to Laurie via email.
Okay. John, you just got here, so my apologies to now catch you up quickly, but well, in your absence, we approved the minutes. We had the chief come.
I saw the chief.
Yeah, okay.
He
Good.
looks like he was still walking, so you didn't work him out.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. It's always a pleasure to see the chief when nothing's burning.
Yeah.
So the next thing on, sort of on the agenda was the letter to Center Realty Trust. So Bill just walked us through what he had drafted.
Okay.
So I think, I will turn it back over to you to chair this meeting. I mean, I would assume the next thing would be for a motion to,
Right, does somebody want to make a motion to what?
Sure.
to send the
I
letter?
move that we send the draft dated check. That we send the, I guess the letter attached to the minutes, to the Center Realty Trust, as written.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I don't know
Just
if,
hand
you
it
know,
to
Yeah.
Ben is here.
There you go. Well
Ben is
done.
here,
See?
so you can-
It is a good thing you came.
No, no,
Right.
it's not.
Right,
Yeah,
Yep.
No, that's fine, yeah, but, so, good. So, great, well, my apologies again, it was a crazy evening, but there's no way I could get out of this meeting and stay and play, so. Which means the one topic we have left is to go through all the projects, correct? So what I did, and I don't know if you passed anything out, but I made I just updated the list of the projects based on, I think, the fact that one was withdrawn, right? Laurie, and, did Bill come in with 60,000?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
he did.
good, that's what I used, so here, I'll pass this.
And I think we'll just have to make a motion to, or Lord, did you say that he put in a new application? So we don't
His
need,
email, I think, is considered his amendment to his application, so you'll vote on
yep,
when
okay.
we go through the rest.
Yeah,
okay.
so, or just, this is the list of all, so everybody has a full
you.
list.
And
And
you
then
give me
I-
one more of this.
Laurie.
this is-
I can look on with you.
Yeah, I need more, yeah.
We have tons over here.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, I'm sorry.
Shouldn't that be open space?
let's swing it around.
Okay.
A little shit.
I know that nothing matters.
I'm sorry.
Just don't want to skew our affordable housing numbers.
Oh, look, we got our own. Now we have too many.
And I have amendments, so, and this is also just, I just updated that thing, that I had put together last time that showed the commitments and so forth based on one more month of numbers, and it didn't change anything really at all. If you look at the 2 pages of, numbers, one on the front, one on the back, it basically hasn't changed at all from last time. It got a little bit better because the money coming in was slightly higher. And, but it really didn't change at all. So you see that we have enough money to cover all the projects if we funded everything.
John, do we have any more of these?
Yeah, I think there's a bunch
Yeah.
down there.
Oh,
No,
okay.
sorry.
It's over, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
So there is continuous new money. If we decided to fund literally everything on our list, we could fund it. And then if we take into account the timing adjustments related to the field project, we clearly have enough money. I don't know if anybody mentioned that tonight, the reason why we're here is because we're having a special meeting to talk about turf on the fields. So hopefully, they'll get over that. I think it's really a small group of people that are concerned about it, but.
Vocal.
Yeah, vocal, tell me about it, yeah. So, they'll be back to the planning board on Tuesday, but I think.
I think a lot of us will be.
I think there'll be a lot of other people. I don't think there's gonna be enough room. We may have to have someplace else. I do
Get the
think-
gym.
Yeah.
Have it at the high school
I
field.
I do think that,
The turf field, right?
yeah.
Put it on the football field.
Yeah, for the,
Was
having it on
just
the football
replaced
field. Oh,
last
yeah, that's
year.
right, yeah, that's right, so, yeah. So, kind of getting back to the list, I mean, typically what we've done is sort of walk through project by project to see if people had concerns, issues, if something is a consensus one that we've done in the past, everybody's okay, we go quickly, but if we want to drill down a little bit more, we can do that in any one, but, you know, is everybody okay with starting at the top of the list and working our way through?
Sure.
Do we have to make formal motions?
Motions in each one? Is that?
Yeah.
No, well,
okay.
no, we actually, we typically in the past have done all of them. We've said, are we okay? We can vote for each one separately if you like.
Well, if it's, you're suggesting it's all or nothing on this?
No, it's
Oh,
not, but my point ends up being some of them we go through pretty quickly and
Right.
some of them
Yeah.
take longer. I mean, we could vote each one separately.
I think we should vote each one
Okay,
separately.
that's fine. Okay, so
I'll-
starting at the top, the
I move-
Affordable Housing Trust,
I
okay.
move to, support the Affordable Housing Trust annual $100,000,
Second.
appropriation.
Appropriation, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, do we?
Seconded.
somebody make a
Seconded,
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next item is the Sear Boardwalk, the FONAT.
I would make a motion to support the Sear Boardwalk.
Second?
All, any discussion?
I just wanna, so they're gonna use it for trails and that type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Now that goes out, I'm not, I saw the map, but is it how, it's right with Smolak Farms, is,
No, no, this is.
No, it's over by,
Sear
it's over by the
Recycling.
recycling center.
Yeah,
Sharp
it's down
kind of-
here.
oh,
That's
okay.
in-
That's
that's the
part of the,
Berry
the
Fields,
Bay Circle,
yeah.
All right.
yeah,
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
yeah, so, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed. Okay, next is the playgrounds.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the appropriation of $200,000 towards the rehabilitation of the Reynolds and Grogan playgrounds.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, next is Ridgewood.
I move to approve the appropriation for $395,000 for Phase 8 for Ridgewood Cemetery.
Second.
Any discussion?
I guess the only questions I had on this one is, are we, I mean, we funded Ridgewood in the past, are we comfortable with funding new items that may not necessarily fall under the historic mandate? Or is that okay with our
Well, I
purview?
think that one of the things, and, you know, one of the things we haven't done, we may wanna go back after we vote on everything, is go back and ask for conditions, because one of the conditions would be they can't spend money on stuff that they're not eligible to spend it on.
Right.
So to the extent that, you know, we approve this, we have to approve it subject to following the CPA rules.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, being clear, but I think it's a great
Yeah,
application.
no, that's,
so, yeah,
and
yeah.
I think I'm glad you raised that point the last time, because it was good to raise that while they were there, so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And the next one is the Glenny Woodlot, the Essex County Greenbelt.
Motion to approve the Glenny Woodlot funding of $200,000 for the
Second.
conservation restriction.
Any discussion?
No, I just, the only discussion or comment I would like to make is that the Glenny family on this one is actually losing money.
Yes.
And I think we should be really grateful to
Yeah,
them.
and we should keep a sign with the name on it.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. I
It-
totally
We
agree.
didn't do that when we built the school a number of years ago, and I think that was a big mistake.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
think there should
That's a
be a
good
sign
call.
with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Point of clarification on the application, are we acquiring the property or just a
Yes.
conservation restriction?
Acquiring the
It's-
property.
We're
Acquiring the
acquiring the property,
Okay.
and there will be, but it's, no, we're buying the
Okay.
property in fee. Yeah.
And regarding parking, I know it was in the application, is there an obligation to install parking?
Yes,
Yes.
that will
Okay.
be part of the agreement. Good, I'm glad, yeah, those are I think, the
Yeah.
two key conditions.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
And I just
So-
want to support Tracy's comments to this project, because I
Mhm.
fully think that it was very, it's a really good project.
Yeah, it's a great project and it's incredibly generous of the family.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
so,
Thank you.
all in favor?
I
Aye.
Okay, good. Next is the Housing Authority, and I didn't realize here, I didn't split out the two pieces, and I know this one's a little bit more complicated. I don't know if we want to have a discussion on this first, or whether somebody wants to make a motion. Let's
I
have a
would like to have a
discussion.
discussion. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm supportive of the full amount, both the study and the other, just because I think, we all know that it takes a long time to get things off the ground. And, what we're talking about is $50,000 is a discrete amount of money to kind of do the very first sort of feasibility stage of this planning. And, sort of absent someone like us, I don't know, as they said, I don't know who else would do that. So I look at it as like a good seed exploratory investment on what could be a major improvement in the affordable housing stock.
So I don't disagree that it could be a major improvement and an infusion of affordable housing stock, but I do have a problem with granting them $50,000 when they haven't finished the overall study yet. Like, if they came back to us next year with the completed needs assessment and this request, I think I would be open to, more open to it than I am now. I think I'm just a little concerned about putting the cart before the horse, Bill. I agree with everything you said. I think it's a reasonable request, a reasonable amount of funding for such a request. I don't have a problem with it. I just have a problem putting the cart a little bit before the horse, from my perspective, in that the total needs assessment isn't even completed yet, and they want more money to look at this, what looked a phenomenal project, don't get me wrong, but that would be my only concern.
I mean, I guess my counterpoint would just be that, I would bet, and I didn't ask this question, but it'd probably be a good question. I would bet that the needs assessment probably would have been done absent Columbia Gas, and that whole thing. Now, they had already started the RFP and everything on
The
that.
needs assessment may have been completed if they didn't veer off to development and spending all that time on this project instead of finishing the actual.
But they're only a
capital
few
needs
weeks out. They're only a few weeks away from. I mean, that's my thing. We can wait a year, and that's fine. I think that, you don't get time back.
No.
That's the one thing.
I think that, last year, it was actually my suggestion that the housing authority come to, that, because we were piecemeal. And that, they create this complete, full portfolio capital needs assessment. I'm probably the biggest proponent of affordable housing in town. So what I see, in this proposal is absolutely phenomenal. It's wonderful, and I completely will support it. But you're talking a $75 million project, partners, they're gonna need tax credit, they're gonna need development partner, it's years
Right,
down the
right.
road. They seem to have already kind of stepped into it, I'm not sure, and maybe Frank can answer how that was paid for, because they're paying for that
Rendering.
the rendering, thank you, because I was lost. So the rendering, I'm not sure how that came about, and it probably came out of operating, which is no big deal. But I'm leaning with Denovan that I'd like to see the the full needs assessment, and then once we know what the housing stock actually needs going forward, then. And if we can map it out, that, my point is 50 grand for a dream, because that's what it is 50 grand that can't go into generators. Or could be
Well,
used different, I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of with Denman on the card.
But also, I mean, if it's $50,000 for potential for redevelopment, we don't necessarily know what the needs of a redevelopment may be until the needs assessment is done.
Right.
Right.
So that could change. And one thing I regret not asking last meeting, I may have missed it. Is this for an outside report, or is this for a staff person? 'Cause
Outside report.
It reads as a part-time affordable housing specialist.
Yeah, it would be it would be a consultant.
It'd be a consultant, not a
Kathy's
staff.
not,
Okay.
no, it would
Okay.
be a consultant.
It'd probably be the guy that was here.
Okay.
Yeah,
David
it would
Eisen.
go, they're a great organization.
No, absolutely.
They're a wonderful organization. So I don't know how the rendition came about, or,
Good with spec,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah.
No.
This whole thing started with they wanted to use the land from, on Davis Street, and build a building there in conjunction with some other people,
Right.
for affordable housing. And then when that guy came in, and then they started talking about, this is really a lot of wasted space.
It
And you
is.
could put 2-story houses, and how to do that, how to do that, and it was best, the last meeting was best to just knock everything down and, start over again.
I love the project,
Yeah.
if it could come
So,
to.
yeah,
Good
I mean,
idea.
one of the perspectives that I have is that, the planning board of the town just recently went through the master plan process.
Yep.
And the committee was a great committee that facilitated the creation of the plan, and they got a lot of public input for a lot of different things. And one of the really, I think, critical parts of it was the housing plan, and there's a housing plan embedded in there. And it would seem to me that regardless of which way we go, if we could somehow have a public forum for, to discuss some of these, that's why I like the fact that when they come in with their full study, if that can get promoted to Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, other groups, it increases the knowledge and the sensitivity to those issues, and may even, you know, push out some of the disagreements earlier in the game, if indeed there are. And so that's, for me, that is probably the most important outcome we can have. I'm reluctant to go ahead and do the 50K now, because I think there could be a certain amount of disagreement with it, and I think it would be good to vet the overall plan first and get a lot of feedback on it, and then go do this. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, my only thought on that is there's certainly going to be there's disagreement on every affordable housing project ever, probably in the Commonwealth. I mean, has any community ever said, like, sure, let's build some affordable housing? And,
Beverly.
you know, so I'm saying, like, it. You know, this is very. I mean, when you're talking about a multi-year process, this is kind of. You don't want. You know.
Well, we had. You know, there's only been one CPA project that's ever been voted down at town meeting. And it was the Stevens Corner the first time, because we didn't do enough outreach. And then when we went back, and I mean, some people like Jim and Fun went way out of the way, because they were neighbors and they spoke in favor of it. We got it approved the next year, and
With a little bit more money, too.
and a little bit.
One
Yeah.
option might be for them to go to the Affordable Housing Trust for the 50,000 when they're ready, without having to wait a year for town
Yeah.
meeting.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually a good
That's
idea,
good, yeah.
because
And that's actually a more appropriate partnership, in
Well-
truth, Brian. That's a more appropriate partnership than, although part of our mission is affordable housing and to support it in any way
Yeah.
we deem
Yeah.
appropriate. But what I like with that is that even though I don't sit on the Affordable Housing Trust anymore, that's a better partnership, because the Affordable Housing Trust also it has already created relationships with other nonprofits. So there's that inroad already. So I like that. I like that quite a bit.
So we have the 50. Do people feel comfortable funding the project without having the study done, the larger amount?
I personally do, because with the consultant, I mean, he was very clear that while they haven't completed it, and I believe within the stock, that the housing stock that they have, that, yeah, the project that is probably most desperately needed is definitely those kitchens and baths. And one of the things, why I'm supporting it, I will be supporting it this evening, is we've done the building envelope there. Now, the building envelope has been completed, you know, the lopsided ground, all of those issues have been addressed. The neighbors are, you know, much happier than what it was. So it's, you know, I'd rather move to the interior down there and complete those, then we get the full study. And I'm not a big fan of piecemealing when it comes to assets.
So
Physical
you feel
assets.
comfortable this is the most important
I
project?
do, I do.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Terry, I know you have a concern.
yeah, I'm not sure, and I'd like to see the total plan, but I have another problem, just in general. When, first of all, if we decide that that's the best project, or we don't have this plan done, and then somebody else comes along and goes, I can't believe you're doing their kitchens when ours is way worse. And then they're gonna, we get caught up in where we're putting our money, and somebody, you know, we could always go back and say, hey, we have this plan we were given that says this is the worst situation, so that's why we did that, you know?
Yeah.
And that would make me feel better. But the other part of this, I like the other projects, because when we did the envelopes of that, which I thought was a great project, and it helped the whole neighborhood and the town.
Yeah.
You know, helped a lot of people. When you do a kitchen, you're helping one person.
Yeah.
And that,
No, I
Well,
disagree with you.
let me just finish mine. Right, so, so when you do it that way, and all that money goes to one thing, we just wanna make sure that we've covered the things that would help the mass before we get to the
before we get to, that's why I wanna see the report. I don't wanna find out that there's a project that would help 200 people, but we've taken the money and we've helped.
If I could just, though, well, the only reason why I disagree with you, Terry, is because I've been in asset management for 25 years. You're not helping an individual, you're helping maintain those assets for hundreds and thousands of individuals to come after. So instead of looking, and I'm looking at it from, you know, the position that I hold and have, that it's not the individual family currently living in there, you're maintaining the asset for those today.
Future.
And 30, 40 years down the road. So I totally hear what you're saying though, I get that, but I'm looking at it as how do we put all the money into the building envelope to maintain the asset while the interiors are crumbling.
So now one more, because you could probably answer this better than anybody. If we keep doing this, right, then what's the incentive for the state to ever step back?
There's
and put
a
the-
formula funding, she's always going to get her capital. She'll
No,
always
she'll
be
get the same
awarded
amount
her
no matter
capital,
what.
right, and I don't know the split between federal and state. What's your, you don't know the split between your federal, okay, well, that's fine. But, there's capital funding for federal as well as state, and formula funding, so she's always going to be awarded, it's minimal, we barely can survive on it. So, you know, I just asked for $325,000 for siding from one of my CPCs too.
Right.
The HUD is really looking, and that's the other thing, I wish I knew the breakdown, and I should have looked that up, my bad, but I can always reach out to Kathy and ask her. HUD is really pushing towards repositioning federal properties. I believe the Waverly Road, it's not Waverly Road, whatever it's called.
Murkowski.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is federal.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
I know
that's a
that,
federal
yeah.
property. So I know that HUD is really pushing those of us that have federal public housing to reposition. So that might be something that, and I don't know if Kathy shares my HUD specialist or not, but I can talk to her, but there's opportunity there to be made. I'm actually really looking at transitioning and repositioning because there's a lot of money that will come. I'll lose capital, but I'll actually end up making so much more in my operating that I don't need the capital. So she will always be awarded, but we're at level funding. A couple of years ago, we did get some extra funds, which have been quite helpful. And last year, HUD gave a much bigger chunk, but it's gonna be over. So I totally hear you. I just come at it from just a different angle.
Terry, I think one thing is that I had the same concern because I really would have liked to have the study done. But the one thing that the guy did when he came in,
Yeah.
we asked him like 3 or 4 times, look, is this, you're promoting this now, is this gonna, are you gonna change this on us? You know, are you far enough along in the study that you're gonna come to a different conclusion than you're coming to now?
Right.
And he kept on saying,
Yeah,
no.
he did.
He
No,
said,
it's-
no, this is the most important thing. So I feel reasonably comfortable that this is the highest priority and that they try to balance all the needs, you know, so.
I think though, if we do approve this evening, you're looking at 1.4, because,
Yeah.
you know, a $1.4 million project, I mean, I think it's going to be run by DHCD. And we're looking at a long time, not Kathy's fault, a long time, because it can be government managed, you know, so I just don't want, especially for some of the newer, I mean, Frank would understand because you sit on their board, but, on their board of commissioners, but for some of the newer folks on this, she won't have complete control over this, the state will.
Right.
And so it's a ridiculously slow process.
So, I guess, Tracy, to your point that this serving future families, you know, down the road, do we have a sense on the useful life of these improvements?
That I would bet 20 to 30 is what, that would be my
Typically say,
take, 20 to
okay.
30. That's generally what you go for, you're looking for 20 to 30.
Okay.
Obviously less with your appliances.
Right.
Appliances,
10,
yeah,
you know, if you're lucky.
right. So I would, from my understanding, these are, what's down at Groby's, right, not Francis Street, is originals. So
Wow.
you're talking,
Decades.
yeah, 50s, I feel like they're originals, and if not, the last renovation seventies, sixties? Probably the seventies, so you're still looking 40, 50 years. I look at it as an asset to save the asset and to prolong the life of the asset.
I get it. I guess I just have a little bit of a hard time fundamentally getting over the fact that we're, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but a little bit putting the cart before the horse in
I
that,
hear you.
you know, we're funding a project before the needs assessment comes in that we told them last year they had to do.
How about, I mean, we can attach whatever conditions we want to this. How about before they go off and spend anything, they come back and review the thing with us so that we have, if they come up
I
with
would
a
feel a
totally
lot more
different.
comfortable if we did that.
I would too. You know, and then if this thing
That's-
isn't near the
that's a good
top, then,
compromise.
I mean, because this is
Yeah.
a big chunk of money.
That's a good compromise.
Yeah,
We can
I
essentially
think
hold it in
that's-
escrow until the needs
yeah, we
assessment's
could,
complete.
we could
Is that-
hold it, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's
We always
fair.
have the progress.
That would make me feel more comfortable.
Yeah,
I
okay,
think that's a fantastic compromise.
yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
You've
So-
done it again, Mr. Chairman.
Well, yeah, path to consensus here, so.
But I'm not for the
yeah.
50K, I would
No, I
remove
would agree.
that.
Okay.
So, would somebody like then to make a motion?
Sorry.
I'll make a motion. A motion to approve funding of $1,404,480 to the Housing Authority on the condition that the needs assessment be completed before funding is spent.
Are we removing the 50K?
Yeah,
we can
that's the
subtract
amount less the
50,
50K,
yeah.
so
Oh,
it's
I'm sorry.
1,404,480.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I guess, I don't know that this needs to be in a motion, but I mean, in my mind, it needs to be at the top or very close to the top when they come in for that needs assessment. I mean, I don't know if you make that part of the motion or not. I would look, you know.
I
mean,
agree.
You can, yeah.
Yeah, I
Caveat
think-
to
That's
that,
why we
but
said
that's fine,
do
yeah,
it.
that's fine, yeah.
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 If it's not, if it does
It's
come
not.
back and it's not what they told us, then
And
you're not
pull the
getting
money
that
back.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, I think
Yeah,
that's
think about
entirely fine, yeah. Yeah.
Did I mess you up?
No, just think about how to amend the motion if
No,
need
just
be.
say, this is the player, so moved. So, motion made to fund an
I'll
amount
second
just over, 1400, seconded with the caveat that they come back and that it has to be at the top of the list, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. So we're on, next item is the steam engine, because the other one is taken out.
I move to approve the appropriation increase from 30 to 60,000 for the restoration of the steam fire engine for the fire
Second.
department.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now comes our favorite one. Everybody saw the two notes that I sent?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, any thoughts, comments? I mean, this is a hard one. These are nice people,
They're lovely people, but I'm
Yeah.
voting against it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel terrible about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's worthwhile, but I'm not convinced that this passes the muster that it needs to pass.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? I mean, consistent with that, because I mean, we can make a motion not to fund it if we want.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
that's
that
what we
could be
probably ought
done
to
in
do
the
is,
negative,
you know,
yeah.
Mhm.
Motion to deny the request for St.
Yeah.
Paul's Church for $183,000.
I mean, and, you know, and maybe what we do, and I don't think we need to put this in motion, but it almost feels to me that we should.
Send an
Yeah.
apology letter. Because that's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I mean, you know, last year I called them and I said that, but maybe we send a letter this year saying that
Mhm.
we appreciate their efforts and everything, but, you know, and,
Mhm.
we just don't think it's ripe yet. I think also, I do wanna go back to Stuart and the coalition to see if there's gonna be any heft behind the push to get this clarified.
I felt as though Stuart, yeah, they're just waiting for someone else to get sued.
Right.
so
So,
we can
and somebody
play it
else
out
will get
more.
sued, I mean,
Well,
that's
so,
the
yeah,
thing.
I just
Boston-
don't want it to be out.
Boston's
Yeah.
funding them, but the group in DC doesn't want to tackle Boston's budget.
Right.
We're gonna wait for
Probably,
someone
Right.
So they'll
That's a
probably
good
wait for
point.
some, that's an interesting perspective, you're right, that's
Really,
probably.
they're gonna go
right.
after a smaller town.
Yeah.
They'll do some discovery, but they'll wait for,
No, they'll
Yeah,
poke
that's
and
fine.
prod at Boston.
right.
Yeah.
And use lessons learned to attack someone.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I would.
Mhm.
That's what I do too.
So, yes, so would somebody like to make a motion in this, as I said, we can recommend not to fund it and to send a letter to.
Yeah,
I think Brian did.
Motion to deny the
Okay.
application for $183,000 for St. Paul's Church.
Okay, and do I hear a second?
None of us want to
Second.
I'll stick my neck out.
Yeah.
I also make a motion to, formally send a letter and say we're sorry.
Yeah, yeah, we can include that in the motion, yeah. So motion made and seconded with the caveat that we send them a letter. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And last is admin. I put 30, not 50 in, because we barely spent 5 to 10,000 a year. I don't think we need 30, so. But it can be any amount.
What do we use admin for? I don't know.
It's
That's my-
very little.
I mean, if we
Sometimes.
put in 50, can we get our own secretary?
Yeah, if you want it.
No, I mean, no, but
I mean,
I don't
you
really know what,
could.
I
You
don't
could.
know.
I mean,
put 50,
frankly,
don't we?
the only thing that,
I don't know what
that
we
goes
do.
into it today is like
I don't know.
occasionally we'll have like a notice fee or something like that. There have been, I think once, I'm trying to remember this, we had we did an appraisal ourselves,
Oh,
for
okay,
something.
okay.
And, you know, it's more to catch those things that might come up. You know, we may wanna hire a consultant for something,
Okay.
on our own,
Okay.
so it's.
I didn't know if it offset, from town hall, their salary, if they're working
No, I mean,
here.
some towns do that. I mean, some towns actually offset it, so, yeah, we could do that.
So
Yeah.
Jillian is paid for. Jillian's paid for.
So,
Well, if she is, we haven't been throwing very much money into the pot, so,
No, it hasn't started yet, but it will,
Yeah.
she will be.
so
yeah.
just so I'm clear, John, so if
So
we,
if
if,
it will be, maybe we need to up that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So maybe
saying.
we should make it
It's nowhere
50,000,
near-
yeah.
It's nowhere near.
But
Yeah,
it's
I
not,
was-
she
I don't
isn't
think
gonna
it's-
be,
yeah.
Near-
she isn't gonna be
Oh.
full-time on this, right?
No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, plus I would imagine, I mean, I remember last year we did 50,000, so there's already that set aside, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't roll over.
It doesn't?
Oh, the admin doesn't roll over,
Ah.
okay.
It doesn't.
So then there's no real,
should,
there's no real harm in going
50.
50
Yeah, it's-
because it's not like it's tied up like it
Yeah.
would be with another project.
if something comes up, we need a consultant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I move that we bump admin, back to 50.
okay. Motion made
Second.
for 50,000 for admin spend. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Great.
Well, that was
Awesome.
painless.
Awesome.
For some.
Perfect.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk about any conditions on anything, or do we?
I think that, you know, if you look through them, the Affordable Housing Trust, we want them to come back once a year, right, to talk to us. I can't see anything on the Sear Boardwalk because it's just too small. The playgrounds, you know, I mean, it'd be nice to have somebody come in maybe next year and talk about just where, I mean, we're getting close to the
Is there
end of
any
the
turf?
program, but it'd be nice to get some, you know, some lessons learned, like, you
I'm
know,
only half joking.
with,
Yeah.
because every one of the projects has a community group involved, right?
So, in that,
think so.
when we drew that up, when Andrew drew that up, he was gonna put some money aside every year towards maintenance of the playgrounds. Did that go in? And now, is that a rolling number, or is that a number that they, is it 10 a year, and then they take it off the table if they don't use it, or
They
how?
use it. They use a lot in just the mulch alone, not
Yeah.
mulch, but
Yeah, the,
surfacing that they have to replace every year. That's where most of it goes.
Yeah,
kind of
that's quite
surfacing is that?
expensive, actually,
The-
surfacing.
Whatever
the wood chips.
The wood chips, but it's not a wood
Is it
chip,
wood
it's
chip?
Not wood, though,
special.
it's some special.
It's a special,
I don't know.
Non-toxic.
correct.
Good.
And it's got a bounce to it. I have playgrounds at my property, so, and it's quite expensive,
Very
actually.
expensive, yeah.
And it's so expensive that many, many playgrounds let it go too long before they.
See,
Well,
well,
yeah.
that's my question, I
It's a
wanna make
breakdown.
sure that
Mhm.
if things are breaking
None
or
of
whatever, and there's money that's
More chance
needed,
of breaking your arm.
I'd like to stamp on it before we end
Yeah.
up, you know, cause we spend all this money, and then if we go in and we see half the swings are down, cause they're broken and we don't have the money to repair them, then I'd like to know that, and let's keep
Yeah, I
that.
don't
So-
think that's gonna be an issue. Jim's pretty good about, you know, I mean, obviously, someone usually has to call and tell us, cause
Right.
not inspecting.
Maybe the condition is you come in once a year to just give us an update of the status of the program and address like the issues that you're
So
raising. I
we're
think that's-
finally getting there, we're there, and I
Yeah.
just don't wanna ever go back to where we were.
But, no, you're right,
Amen.
it's exactly that, as we've invested all this money, it would be a shame, you know.
On some of the ones that we have, what are we putting a caveat on? Well, like the housing authority one or nothing else.
No,
really?
no,
Oh,
the,
the parking lot,
Parking
like
lot.
Glenny Woodland,
Glenny
parking
Woodland.
lot, those types of things. When they go and they're for conservation and we write up the agreements and all of that, do we see those or do we just go through?
Well, we can do it any way we want.
Yeah.
I think I'd
I
like to
mean,
see
we can just have, when town council works on the agreements with Greenbelt, to just copy us all on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not just Greenbelt, just for my own to, so
Yeah,
that
I
I'm
mean,
learning
that's
more
fine, I'm trying to
about
think, like,
what the agreements actually look like.
well, I mean, there will be, like, the grant agreements for every one, but I thought you meant the actual contract, the sales, contract, cause what will have to happen on the Glenny one is that we'll actually buy the property from Greenbelt, so, we'll be a party to the purchase and sale agreement, and town council will handle that. And I'm sure, Suzanne will let us see those agreements, so, I mean, I think that's the only one that would have a,
It has to say
contract.
specifically what the use could be, right? So, you know,
Yeah, but I mean, well, I mean, that's a separate thing. The property, when it goes to the town, usually for open space, becomes sort of managed by the Conservation Commission, right, Deb?
Right.
Yeah, so they get to sort of decide on the use, and I think, I mean, practically speaking, given the size of this property, it would just be passive recreation and trails.
Yeah.
So by what instrument do we make sure the parking gets built?
That's our grant agreement with the, Greenbelt.
Okay,
And it will also be part of the contract, I think. we put it
okay,
in the
that's a,
contract.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
a,
mean, that would be.
yeah,
Green
before
belt?
stuff gets signed, that's, I think, what we're saying, is we wanna make sure we
Yeah.
see what that final document looks like.
Greenbelt will build the parking lot, not the town?
Yeah, they said they would.
Okay.
I mean, they would do it in our direction, I'm sure. in a
Yeah,
way
it
that
was-
would
It was
be
actually,
mutually-
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna look
not
at that.
least of which you gotta figure out the spot on that street where you,
Right.
where you
Turn
have
around.
access and where it's safest. And
Right.
it has to be level and, you know, so there's obviously some practical considerations, you know, but, that would be, I would assume you would do it in conjunction with the Conservation Commission with Jennifer, and, I mean, that's a good thing is, because Jennifer really partnered with Greenbelt on this thing, she's
Yeah.
got a
Yes,
lot of
yeah.
skin in the game in this one, so I'm sure she'll take care of that. you know.
Good job.
Yeah, she did a very good job, so, great. So if there's no other items, does somebody wanna make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to, I move that, we adjourn this evening.
Second.
All in favor? So, does everybody know what today is?